Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, December 15. I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. The Ministry of Health and the Southeast Regional Health Authority are reporting a cluster of COVID-19 cases at the Bellevue Hospital. In a release a short while ago, the Health Ministry noted that up to the weekend, 23 persons tested positive for the respiratory illness. Now, this includes 21 patients and 2 staff members. The ministry says a public health team has since gone into the facility to carry out infection prevention and control measures. Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine, which Jamaica is seeking to access, has been declared safe and 94% effective by U.S. regulators. This clears the way for emergency authorization. The analysis by the Food and Drug Administration means it could become the second coronavirus vaccine to be allowed in the U.S. Now, it comes a day after Americans across the country began receiving jabs of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Now, unlike the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna shot does not require ultra-cold storage during shipping. Now, the news comes as the U.S. coronavirus death toll surpassed 300,000. The 54-page FDA document said there were no safety concerns and serious adverse reactions were rare. Now, if approved by the team of experts later this week and by the FDA's vaccine chief, shipments could begin within 24 hours. The Health Ministry hopes to inoculate up to 450,000 Jamaicans, or nearly 16% of the population, by the end of 2021. 3 more persons have died from COVID-19 in Jamaica. This pushes the number of fatalities to 276. 83 new cases of the virus were confirmed on Monday. The country's coronavirus case count is now 11,875. At least one municipal corporation is now feeling the impact of the ban on parties instituted in March by the government. The Andrew Holness-led administration had instituted the ban to curtail the spread of the coronavirus across the island. Herman Green has the details.
A ban on parties, initially for 14 days, was announced on March 12 this year by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Fast forward 9 months later, and still that ban is in effect. There have been numerous calls from entertainment producers and protests for a reprieve to be given. However, health officials say they are unable to recommend lifting the restrictions because of the spike in COVID-19 cases. Now, at least one municipal corporation is reeling from the fallout from the cancellation of entertainment events. The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation says it has seen a 25% decline in its revenues due to COVID-19. This is evident as Kingston and St. Andrew is known as the party capital of the country. Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, noted that the municipality typically earns substantially from the issuing of event permits.
I don't want the promoters to think that the government is treating the matter as a light issue. It's a matter that we take seriously. As a matter of fact, the revenues for the municipality is down in, I believe it's about 25%. And so that is something that we take seriously, and with the music and entertainment is very important to the city. It's part of the character of the city, and the city of Kingston is known for that. So that is something that we take seriously. But at the moment, we are still in the COVID pandemic, and the government is acting in a responsible manner.
It will be even more detrimental over the Christmas holidays, as Grand Market will not be in full swing as previous years. Typically, a number of establishments would have paid to have sound systems set up across the corporate area to provide music to the shopping and partying people. In the meantime, Mr. Williams says the KSAMC's revenues are also taking a hit due to a decline in the payment of property taxes.
Generally across the board, the decline in revenue is about 25%. I believe in terms of, I believe if you take the property tax as a separate item, then that would be far more than the 25%. 25%. And so we do encourage persons, but we understand the situation, and we are expecting to be up as we enter into the new year.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
Jamaica's tourism sector is expected to see a continued reduction in revenue for the winter season. This despite a slight uptick in tourist arrivals. The bleak picture was painted by President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association in a recent interview. O'Shane Masters has the details.
The winter tourist season is normally the peak earning period for hotels and attractions across the island. But with the COVID-19 pandemic still spreading globally, the sector is still predicting a somewhat bleak season. It's why the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, JHTA, is predicting a soft start to the winter tourist season, which begins today. However, President of the JHTA, Clifton Reeder, is expecting a gradual rise towards the second quarter of 2021. Mr. Reeder says private and public sector interests are working hard to get better results. He spoke with our news center last night and gave a breakdown of the numbers.
Up to probably September, we were looking at, December ending in probably the 30s, 35, 40% for December. We are now realizing the high 20s instead. So we've seen a fall off there for the December market as well. January is going to be a soft January. We're going to be in the teens. And with the vaccination going on in the UK and US now, we are seeing some light going into March, where I think March will get us back into the 20s. And I think April, we will start to see an uptick in terms of getting into high 30s.
But with the United States issuing a level 4 travel health notice to travel to the island due to the country's COVID-19 cases, will that be another blow to the potential earning capacity?
From all indications, I believe that with the hard work that they're putting in through the Tourist Board and representations through various ministries, I believe that at some stage we will be taken off that list or be reduced back to a level 3.
The JHTA president says while things will start to turn around in 2021, the sector is still expected to face some unprecedented challenges.
Remember, we have several employees out there still not at work. We have idle facilities. We really want to put back into action. Projects coming on where investors, and thank God they're sticking with us, really maintaining their stance that they will still continue their projects as we get better and better.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have more when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The opposition People's National Party is calling for a review of the Natural Resources Conservation Act. This follows the ongoing debate surrounding the controversial proposed mining in the Dry Harbour Mountains in St. Ann. Details in this report.
Battle lines have been drawn in the fight for the protection of the environment. It comes as the government has approved mining in the Dry Harbour Mountains in St. Ann and sections of the Cockpit Country. But there has been opposition against mining in those areas from various stakeholders, chief among them the Jamaica Environment Trust, JET. There have also been strong opposition from the parliamentary opposition, the People's National Party, PNP. The opposition is calling for a review of the Natural Resources Conservation Act.
And we are calling for an immediate review of the act that empowers the NRCA Act that empowers the the Minister of the Environment to review an appeal. Because there has to be provided, I accept there should be an appeal. But what needs to be stated clearly is how the appeal is to be done. Who are the persons that must attend upon that appeal? And the timeline.
Opposition spokesperson on the environment, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, argues that with 72 conditions attached to the approval for mining in the Dry Harbour Mountains, it's clear that there are serious questions surrounding the approval which was granted following NEPA's earlier rejection.
If you're going to put 72 conditions on a permit, then something wrong. And when you go through these 72 conditions, it puts a lot of work and monitoring at the feet of NEPA. Now, on a good day, NEPA just, and this is not taking a look at NEPA, but on a good day, NEPA cannot do everything that it is supposed to do because there are real constraints that it has to treat with, such as human resources, financial resources. And it simply can't. So these 72 conditions, most of which will have to be overseen and supervised by NEPA, you wonder who's going to really enforce it.
Senator Fraser Binns further called for a cost-benefit analysis to be done for this and other proposed mining operations to determine their impact on the health of residents and any negative impact on the environment. The mining investment at Dry Harbor is projected to bring in nearly $650 million in taxes while creating close to 100 jobs. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The St. James Police say they are ready to keep residents safe for the Yuletide season. The cops recently outlined their holiday crime-fighting plan. Herman Green reports.
The St. James Police say despite the issues of 2020, it's been a comparatively good year so far. Divisional Head Superintendent Vernon Ellis refused to give figures, but says murders in the parish are down to a 17-year low and illegal firearm recoveries are at their highest.
I don't want to go off in talking about statistics, Mr. Mayor, because it seems as if whenever we talk about statistics, the criminal elements tend to come out like cockroaches and commit acts against the citizens.
He says for the holiday season, the number of police officers in commercial districts have been increased with new recruits. Quick response teams have also been bolstered in light of the increased commercial activities. Gang activities, however, continue to be a concern. He listed the Quarry and Granville communities as problem areas.
Based on what transpired, we've chipped into a surge mode and we intend to pursue these, don't mind me calling them cockroaches because basically that's what they are. But the plans afoot will be aimed at targeting these members of the Bad Breed Gang, the G-City, and the Walter Mees.
The cops are asking for patience and cooperation from vendors and other law-abiding citizens. The division will be using online platforms for virtual meetings and to advise citizens of safety tips, operations, and other actions during the period.
2 men were shot and killed by a gunman at a cook shop on the Discovery Bay Main Road in St. Ann Monday evening. They have been identified as 21-year-old cook shop operator Omar Dennis and 52-year-old Dwight Nib. A 53-year-old man is being treated at hospital. About 7 o'clock, a white Toyota Axio drove up to the cook shop and a man alighted. He entered the shop and shot Mr. Dennis. While leaving, the gunman shot Mr. Nib and the other man who were passing the establishment. Investigators say Mr. Dennis was the target of the attack. Councillor for the Guys Hill Division in St. Catherine, Leroy Dunn, is hoping that works can be done soon so the post office can reopen. Mr. Dunn says the absence of the facility has been challenging for the residents, especially the elderly. O'Shane Masters reports.
It's now 3 years since residents in and around Guys Hill in St. Catherine have been without a post office. The facility was ordered closed by the St. Catherine Health Department on August 31, 2017 because of the dilapidated condition of the building. The 50-odd-year-old building was infested with rats. A part of its roof caved in, which resulted in leaks, and the floorboards had fallen out. Some repairs were done, however, according to the health department, the recommendations for a significant improvement were still not met.
During the monitoring of the facility, it was revealed that the institution was reopened without the consent or any dialogue or discussion with the medical officer of health or the health department, and in breach of the closure notice issued under the Public Health Act. The department was forced to take action.
The postmaster at the facility was subsequently prosecuted for his involvement in the reopening of the institution without the health department's consent. The matter was mentioned in court on November 24 of this year and is scheduled to be heard January 26, 2021. Councillor for the Guysdale Division, Leroy Dunn, laments the challenges faced by residents, especially the elderly, since the closure of the post office. The post office sits in the center of the rural township and serves St. Mary and St. Catherine.
What the civic organization has tried to do and why they have actually, moved to open, to have this facility reopen, is because of the hardship that people are experiencing, especially the elderly persons who have to collect their pension checks. Hardship having to go to Linstead and other surrounding communities that have post offices. So it is in fact difficult for the people of the community.
He's hoping that something can be done so the facility can be reopened. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
In news overseas, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, for the first time since the election, publicly acknowledged and congratulated President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris for their victory in the 2020 U.S. election. More from the CNN.
So today I want to congratulate President-elect Joe Biden. The President-elect is no stranger to the Senate. He's devoted himself to public service for many years. I also want to congratulate the Vice President-elect, our colleague from California, Senator Harris. Beyond our differences, all Americans can take pride that our nation has a female Vice President-elect for the very first time.
Just a moment ago, on the Senate floor, a moment for this country. The Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, of course a very powerful Republican, acknowledging what the majority, frankly, of sitting Republican lawmakers have not yet done, that Joe Biden is the President-elect, Kamala Harris is the Vice President-elect, and of course, Poppy, it took several weeks, but the day after the Electoral College spoke, we now hear from the Majority Leader.
That's right. Let's go straight to our colleague Manu Raju. As Jim said, it's a big moment. But by the way, only to follow Vladimir Putin. I mean, that says a lot that Putin acknowledged it first, no?
Yeah, a lot of Republicans had not been willing to defy the president as he's been making baseless claims and launching conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory about the election. Most Republicans, as we've seen for 4 years in the Trump presidency, don't stray from the president. Rarely do they break party lines here. But this is a significant moment and likely will lead to a floodgate of other Republicans who will acknowledge reality here that they all see, even if they're not willing to acknowledge it publicly, that Joe Biden is in fact the winner here of the election.
In sports, Reggae boy Leon Bailey and Bayer Leverkusen have been drawn to face Swiss club Young Boys in the round of 32 of the UEFA Europa League. The draw, which took place on Monday, will see Bailey's Leverkusen playing away to Young Boys on February 18 and at home on February 25. The winner will march into the round of 16 of the competition. Bailey has scored 5 goals in the Europa League this season, which puts him third in the Golden Boot race. Meanwhile, last season's beaten finalist Manchester United have been drawn to face Spanish club Real Sociedad. Arsenal are due to battle Benfica. Leicester City entertains Slavia Prague, while Tottenham Hotspur plays Austrian club Wolfsberger. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, the sports and the production teams, good afternoon.